So where would you like to be?
Right here is fine.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Corbin Sable, not Cordy. Corbin Sable. I know it sounds familiar. But hey, I got a lot to cover. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much to the Republican women for giving us a platform, a very large platform to speak. I'm used to the 3-minute speeches, so after the 7 minutes or so, I'm probably going to start telling some jokes, right? They know what's coming. But hey, so it looks like he dipped out, but Cordy said something really important. We have more in common than what we don't have in common. If we focus on the 51% that unites us, we can forget about the 49% that divides us. Now, I say the same thing, but just a little bit different. I say we have 99% in common and 1% that is not in common with all Americans. But they've done such a wonderful job at getting us to focus on that 1% that divides us. Things that don't matter, such as our skin color, or our gender, or maybe even some fiscal policies. But when you really break it down into common sense and good faith and have honest conversations, even the tough ones like abortion, which we'll get into, I think we can find some middle ground. And at the end of the speech, when I talk about my platform, I am going to give you my stance on abortion because I felt obligated to, since Roe v. Wade looks like it's going to get overturned, and as a state legislator in the state assembly, I might have influence on that issue. I'm going to give you my platform on abortion, and I think I've done a good job at figuring out a way to pull in some of our pro-choice friends into the pro-life crowd. Okay, so I'm running for, Corbin Sable, I'm running for State Assembly 79th District. So that covers the southern part of El Cajon, La Mesa, Lemon Grove, La Presa, Spring Valley, Rancho San Diego, the Central City, San Diego area, City Heights, Mount Hope.
San Carlos.
Say again?
San Carlos. San
Carlos does sound familiar. You're probably right, yes.
Right here.
Oh, right now we are outside the 79th District, if you look at the map.
Why do I get stuff from Akilah Weber?
I don't
They
know.
redistricted.
I mean, the maps were redrawn last December.
Maybe that's the change.
Yeah, it might have been, and so you probably did before. So right now, if you look at the geographic dot, we're in the 78th district. So, but anyway, that's okay.
But all these ladies do come from
Yeah.
where you ladies spoke.
That's okay.
So that's your book.
Yeah, that's okay. For what it's worth, I am the endorsed Republican candidate for this race. There is another Republican on the ballot. If you live in the 79th district and you have not voted for it yet, I'd ask you to please vote for me. And if you're still deciding, you can go to my website at corbinsable.com. I'll give you my card at the end of this. I'm the endorsed Republican candidate by the California GOP and the San Diego Republican Party. Mayor Bill Wells, Mayor Richard Bailey, San Diego Rise Up, a great community activist group, and a couple of other key endorsements such as Patriots for Freedom PAC, and Reform California has me on their voter guide as well. So, why I'm running for office? I never thought I was going to do this. I'm just the average guy. I'm just an average citizen who's concerned for his country, who loves his country. Growing up, my dad was in the Navy, so I moved around my entire life. I don't have a hometown. Yeah, retired lieutenant commander of 28 years. And then when I was 23 years old, I decided to follow my father's footsteps and join the Navy. And as a result, I traveled the world even more. But as I traveled the world throughout my entire life in my 5 years in the Navy, I developed one thing. One thing that I developed is a key love and appreciation for this country. An appreciation for this flag. And everything it stands for. I saw the poverty in Manila. I was in a cab, and a naked child came back knocking on the window and asking for money. Italy was an amazing place, but America beats it 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
I lived there for 2 years, great place. But I would never want to live there. I want to live here in America. America is amazing. And I'm concerned for our country. I don't take anything for granted. And I see that everything that we love and hold dear is under threat by the corrupt politicians and the wealthy elites who have in the progress of destroying our country.
Here, here.
And that's something we can all agree on, regardless of who we vote for. There's corruption in our government, both on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. We need to unroot that corruption. So a couple of you asked why I'm running for office. Did I answer your question? Yeah, that's why I'm running for office. I've never ran before. This is my first campaign. So like Cordy said, I don't know how to lie, cheat, and steal, at least in public office, which is good. I always got to use that one, and I always give them credit whenever I do use that. I don't know how to lie, cheat, and steal. And I'm sorry, being a little snobby here. I just love this country so much. And I'm willing to do anything that's necessary. A couple of years ago, I made a decision to stop doing nothing and start doing something. Stop doing nothing and start doing something. A couple of years ago, a quote rung through my head from Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing.
Here, here.
The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Think about that for just a second. Evil will triumph. Tyranny will triumph. If we, the good people, the decent American people, the law-abiding citizens, choose to do nothing. And it's a choice to choose to do nothing. Okay? It was the people who secured our rights in the past, in 1776, and it will be the people who will ensure those rights remain secured.
Here,
Not only that, here's another quote that I thought of. This battle that we're in, it's not the left versus right, Republican versus Democrat battle that we're in anymore. The battle is now for power and who has it, and it's time to transfer power back to the people.
here. Here.
And not the lobbyists and not the special interest groups. So let me talk about my opponent, Akilah Weber, and then we're going to talk about my platform. So Akilah Weber is the daughter of Shirley Weber, who is Secretary of State now. Akilah Weber in 2018 successfully ran for the La Mesa City Council, and then last year this seat went up for special election when Shirley Weber vacated it to take the Secretary of State position. Okay, she's got name recognition. Her mom's the Secretary of State, for crying out loud. She's a Weber. Everybody knows the last name Weber, and everybody likes Shirley Weber for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Not everybody.
Maybe not the people in this room, but a lot of people that I talk to and I'm door knocking like Shirley Weber. But that's okay. I'm not fighting Shirley Weber. I'm fighting against Akilah Weber. Now, another thing she has name recognition. She is money. Okay, according to Voters Edge, she's almost raised $500,000, and 84% of that is from organizations. Unions, special interest groups, the organizations. Same, yes. Last year, she raised almost $1 million from the special interest groups, the unions, the organizations, okay? I am 100% individually funded. I have not accepted $1 from an organization or special interest group, and I will not accept $1 from any organization or special interest group. So that's going to let me keep my focus on the people and away from the special interest groups. Because when these corporations are donating to these politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, this is not just a Democratic issue, granted they donate more to that party than they do to the Republican Party. What does that do? Do you think they're just spending because they have a hole in their pocket? And it's like, I have way too much money in our corporate bank accounts. Where should we give all this excess money? No, they want something in return. So when you see a politician, both Republican and Democrat, accepting all of this hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars from organizations and special interest groups, their allegiance does not line with the people. The people are not the first in their minds. They have debt that they owe these special interest groups. They don't care about the people. So again, my opponent, Akilah Weber, 84%, according to Voters Edge, donated from special interest groups and organizations. Let's talk about her legislative agenda. We already highlighted it a little bit. AB 1993, she co-authored to mandate the vaccine in the state of California for employers and employees in the state of California. So what does that do? That takes away your power as a sovereign citizen. And what is power if not the ability to make the decision? She co-authored in AB 2098, which would label the speech of healthcare professionals as misinformation if it goes against what a governing board wants, and they will use that to pull their license. Now, it doesn't say this in the bill directly, but if you read between the lines, you will know that they'll use this bill, if passed, to pull the license away from any healthcare professionals that goes against the big pharma narrative. If they say something bad about the vaccine, or they don't promote it 100%, that's misinformation. That's disinformation. We're going to pull your license. How about this? She introduced AB 1797, which would create a statewide mandated local immunization program, or record. Last time I checked, both the U.S. Constitution and the California State Constitution says we have the right to privacy, and that means we have a right to privacy from our government as well. Our rights have been threatened and abused over these past 2 years, more so than any time in our country's history. Two more bills. AB 1632, an infringement on our private property, on our private businesses. AB 1632, introduced by Akilah Weber, meaning she wrote this, she authored it, she's introducing it. AB 1632 would force private businesses to open up their bathrooms, or their private bathrooms, to the public if a medical condition arises, or else face a $100 fine. Or else face a $100 fine. Does that sound like a government that serves the people?
No.
Does that sound like a government that represents the people? Or does that sound like a government that threatens and coerces the people?
Yes, of course.
Of course, the answer is obvious. We no longer have a government that serves the people. We no longer have a government that represents the people. Going into office used to be a service and a sacrifice. I dropped out of school so I could run for office. I never wanted to do this. I do, but I don't. It's kind of like a... I do. Yeah, right? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I do.
No, I dropped out of school. And I'm a Navy veteran, so I was using the GI Bill. All right, so my tuition was covered, and the housing allowance, I was getting $2,900 a month in extra income. I dropped out so I could focus on this campaign. I made, and that's a small sacrifice. That's a small sacrifice compared to some other candidates. All right, Tyler Gaffney, he dropped out. He stopped his business altogether. He's running for Congress. He has no income right now. John McCann, running for Chula Vista mayor, him and his wife spent $65,000 of their own money for his campaign. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we love our country and we see what's under threat and what's under assault. Meanwhile, we have these corrupt politicians, both on the Republican and Democratic side, that are being funneled by these special interest groups and being controlled. They are puppets to what the corporations want. Last bill about Akilah Weber. She didn't introduce this one. We all know AB 1638, the suspension of the gas tax. She voted against it twice. They all voted against it, right? And not only that, gas taxes are going to go up July 1st to 53.9 cents. I don't understand how these people think. So that's what I'm up against. That's the mindset of what I'm up against. That's the money that I'm up against. So if you'd like to support me, go to CorbinSable.com/donate. CorbinSable.com/donate. One more time, CorbinSable.com/donate. Even if it's just $5, even if you're outside of my district, it helps. Right? Campaigns are expensive. I wish I knew that before I decided to run.
Or you can write a check.
Or you can write a check.
And your occupation on it and
Yes.
hand it to them.
Or a check. Make it out to Sable for Assembly. SABOL for Assembly. Sable for Assembly. But yeah, campaigns are expensive. That's the last thing I'll say about that. So let's talk about my platform, right? So it all starts, I'm going to kind of go back and forth, but I want to make sure I get this as accurate as possible. So my platform starts with a mindset first, empowering the people. That's my mindset when I built my platform, empowering the people. If you go to my website, CorbinSable.com/my platform, that's the first thing you're going to see, empowering the people. And what is power if not the ability to make the decision? So that's power, the ability to make the decision. So when the government decides to vaccinate you and force a vaccine, they're taking your power. All right? When the government is infringing on your private property and saying private businesses have to open up their bathrooms to the public or else face a $100 fine, they're taking our power. Our rights, our individual rights, our inalienable rights that come from God, not the government, that gives us power. And we have a unique opportunity to capitalize on that word power, right? Because our friends on the left really like to use that and say, hey, we're empowering the people, we're fighting for the people, but what they're really saying is that we need to tax the hell out of the people and give the government all of our money. That's what they really mean when they say power to the people. But when I say power to the people, I mean you make the decision. You are in the driver's seat, and everything that I will do will be based on a mindset to drive power back to the people and let the people make the decisions. When government closest to the people is an empowered people. So when we have distant politicians in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. making the decisions for the people, that is a disempowered people. They are taking power. They are taking our power away from us. So that's my mindset. Protecting your rights. I already talked about that and how our rights give us power. So let's skip to enabling you to thrive. Our government, with all of our taxes and regulations, are putting a hindrance on our ability to thrive and be prosperous and independent as we were meant to be. My little conspiracy theory brain coming in here with the destruction of small businesses during the COVID pandemic and how they shut down the small businesses and left the big box stores open. It's because they don't want us to be independent. They don't want us to thrive. All right, how many, what was it, like 40% of small businesses throughout America went out of business during the COVID pandemic because of their cruel and tyrannical lockdowns, unscientific lockdowns, unconstitutional lockdowns? These people are an enemy to our country.
Here, here.
They really are. It is no longer this Democratic-Republican divide going on. They are enemies of this country, and we have to treat them like that. So, when I'm in office, I will fight to reduce taxes.
Here, here.
I will fight to lower regulations so the people can thrive and be prosperous. So we can build our own homes instead of needing the government to build affordable housing just so the real estate developers can give them a kickback to their campaigns. Let's talk about the homeless crisis. So the homeless crisis, what we have going on right now is a very multifaceted approach. We have a lot of people in government saying, let's just go throw them in a hotel and call it a day. Right? They did that here in La Mesa. But we can't do that. We have to first let the local governments drive the show. I'm running for state office, and part of empowering the people is letting the local governments drive the show and local municipalities drive the show. Because the people of La Mesa, the people of El Cajon know better how to handle the problems than me as a distant Sacramento politician would ever would. My job in Sacramento will be to support the local governments with the funding and the resources that's necessary, to call on the federal government for extra funding if needed. But it's the local governments that's going to tell me what they need, not me tell you what to do. So that's my mindset about homelessness. We have to stop the flow of drugs into this country.
Here, here.
All right? We have to. All right? We talked about it with fentanyl and securing our southern border. The federal government has neglected its duty. One of its actual constitutional duties is securing our southern border.
Here, here.
Who here has heard of the Doctrine of Lesser Magistrates? It's a book. Really simple, the Doctrine of Lesser Magistrates. It says that when the assigned authority neglects its duty, the duty to fulfill that, or to fill that void, automatically, by default, goes to the lesser magistrate. So, for example, the federal government has a job to secure our border. They're not. We don't need to ask for their permission to secure the border, according to the Doctrine of Lesser Magistrates. We just do it. And there's somebody who's running in Arizona for governor, Carrie Lake. That's her mentality. When she gets elected, she's going to call on the National Guard, the Arizona National Guard, to go there and secure the border. She's not going to ask the federal government for permission. And that's my mindset. Federal government, you're screwing up big time, Biden administration. You've neglected your duty. You've turned your back on the people. You've turned your back on the country. So that means I'm going to fight to do it myself. I'm not going to ask the federal government to secure our southern border on what part that we can. And hopefully we get a good sheriff in office. Hopefully we get a Carrie Lake in Arizona so we can form a partnership of concerned American citizens who just want to do what's best for the country.
Or you can call Senator Hall.
Oh, yes. Housing crisis. Okay, housing crisis, I'll talk about this briefly. It's supply and demand at this point. Supply and demand. There's way more demand than the supply of houses. All right? But excessive taxes and regulations and permitting fees and everything else on the other side makes it difficult for the people to increase the supply. And it's designed that way. They're creating this crisis so they can come in and say, we're going to build affordable housing. So they can build affordable housing so then the real estate developers can then give them a kickback to their campaign. Every time I see affordable housing, Nathan Fletcher, Mayor Todd Gloria telling affordable housing, I'm saying, how much money are you getting to your campaigns from these real estate developers? We don't need government to solve the problem. We need government to back off so the people can solve the problem. So that means loosening up regulations, loosening up permitting fees, loosening up taxes, reducing taxes. It's crazy. It's insane how overtaxed we are. Gas prices. All right, so first thing I would have done is support AB 1638, which would have suspended the gas tax at 51 cents, soon to be 53.9 cents. We also need to, I've said it before, we need to cut regulations and taxes so we can produce more, so the gas companies can produce more. All right, now, the concern from our friends on the left is that these gas companies are just artificially inflating their prices. Let's bridge that gap. Let's say it's true. Okay, I'll go ask that question. I'll go investigate the gas companies and make sure they're not artificially inflating their prices. I don't know. I'm not going to assume that they're not. Public health amid a pandemic. We've been focusing as a culture, we don't focus enough on having a healthy public. You go to the grocery store, pretty much everything on the shelves these days is essentially poison. Bag of Doritos, red 6, yellow 5. What is that? Everything in our baby formula has already been linked to deficiencies in ADHD. It's insane how much they have poisoned us on purpose to make us sick so they can profit off of us. So Big Pharma can profit off of us. Big food sickens us. Big Pharma tries to take us, make us feel better, and they all get rich as a result. So we need to focus more on having a healthy public. And that means going to the farmers markets. That means me as a state legislator fighting to provide tax credits to small businesses who are promoting and producing healthy food, ethically sourced food, organic food, helping the lower income people who are currently not able to access that food because it's cheaper to buy that food that's killing us, and figuring out whatever I need to do to get them to be healthy and access to whatever, public parks or gym memberships or anything that we can do as government. We have to be compassionate as a people. 78% of deaths due to COVID-19, according to the CDC, were from overweight and obese people. Had we, prior to this pandemic, really understood the importance of being healthy, and I'm not talking triathlete healthy, just eat healthy and exercise here and there, we would have had far less deaths. Far less deaths. Comorbidities added another factor to the deaths. How many people have comorbidities because of an unhealthy diet? Right? There's having a healthy lifestyle is key to surviving the next pandemic. I'll talk about the last two things I'll talk about because I'm sure I'm going to get these questions. The last three things I'm going to talk about is Second Amendment, election integrity, and abortion.
You have 2 minutes to wrap it up in.
Election integrity.
Here, here.
All right. End the universal mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
Step number one. That is step number one. Step number two, clean up the voter rolls.
Here, here.
Okay, clean up the voter rolls. I will work with local governments to clean up the voter rolls and do what I need to do to make sure their voter rolls are clean. And number three, one person, one vote. One citizen, one vote. Is that too hard to ask? Voter ID, is that racist? No. Gun violence and the Second Amendment. Oh my God, there seems to be like a shooting every day these days. We have to ban the guns, but let's not worry about the criminals. Right? We don't need to go after the gun. We need to go after the criminals. That's step number one.
Here, here.
Make it almost impossible for them to justify committing such a horrendous crime. But number two, we need to equip the law-abiding citizens with the ability to defend themselves and their inalienable rights.
Yes.
And that means constitutional carry.
Here, here.
The government doesn't need to issue you a CCW. The Second Amendment isn't your permit. It's not a permit. It's not. You have the right to carry a gun. Second Amendment shall not be infringed. So don't say that the Second Amendment is your gun permit. That's wrong. You have the inalienable right to carry a gun, and the government is saying you can't. They're wrong. You're not. Abortion. Here's where it gets a little tricky. This is the most divisive topic in the world. And they leaked right? They leaked Supreme Court rulings just so they could reel back in their base, right? They were losing so much support, losing so many people, so let's go ahead and leak a Supreme Court ruling so we can get the attention focused on abortion and get our bases fired up again. The pro-choice side yells at the pro-life side and says, you guys are just pro-birth, because as long as the baby is born, you're happy. You don't care what happens outside the womb after birth. Okay, let's change that. Let's make it easier to adopt.
Thank you.
Let's make it easier to take care of kids in foster care.
Not so expensive.
Life begins in the womb. I'm going to swear an oath to protect life, and life begins in the womb. I said that backwards. I'm going to swear an oath to protect life, and life begins in the womb.
Let's promote contraception.
Yeah, education, right? Right? Abortion should be birth control. So let's wrap this up. We need to show compassion to those. We have to protect life, even with rape victims. It's still life. But if the mother chooses not to bear, doesn't want to, would have chosen to abort, and society is saying, no, you're going to birth a child, then it's the society's responsibility to care for the child.
There you go.
Right? We have to show compassion at all cases. So that means taking a baby up for adoption. It means putting it in a foster care system via government or a private nonprofit charity. Okay, so that's it. That looks like my 20 minutes are up. Is that correct?
Yes, you're up.
I said enough. So let's go. Corbin Sable for State Assembly 79th District. CorbinSable.com/donate. CorbinSable.com/volunteer. CorbinSable, SABOL.com, whatever. I'll give you my business card. This is going to take an army of volunteers to win this race. I will be at Lightbulb Coffee every Saturday at 9 a.m. Lightbulb Coffee every Saturday at 9 a.m. 8138 La Mesa Boulevard to build my army of volunteers so we can go door knocking so we can win this election and preserve your rights and power. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's kind of right there in the village area. Whether it be for the Senate side